and that's where I want people to help me, because some of these messages are not clear, and I think we could help each other if some people look into this. So that was what he said on that. And then because it wasn't a clear message, I asked again, is this JFK? And we got the answer, yes. So that's always a good idea if you're not getting clear messages. The next one was, what is the most important message you would like to share? And we got a clear message that said dark money. So then I asked right after that, who's dark money? And we got the initials or the letters EST, and that was it. So I took that from what I knew and researched, but I took that as establishment, just as the establishment, or possible, like the Fed. Does that make sense?
Sure, it does. Yeah.
Like deep state, maybe Federal Reserve. Like we knew from what he was trying to do back then was basically get rid of the Federal Reserve, create his own currency, basically get off the need of the Federal Reserve. So you can see how much that might upset the balance of things. And
without question.
Yeah. I think that was a big part of what came to his demise. But we can see that this UFO topic, I think, was also a big part of it in coming to light with other researchers. But anyway, I knew he was tied to Eisenhower and Forrestal. So I went to the next question of, what was Eisenhower's message to you? And we got back SNOT, the number 2, TALK. So basically, I would take that as saying it said not to talk. If you just go with the S, or if you take out the S, it's talk. So, that's basically what the message came out as. So I think that makes sense. Eisenhower's basically saying, warning him, look, this is way over your head. Do not, start.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Go into this more.
Not much was going on with Eisenhower at the time. I think that's another hidden reality. It's like, not only was there a lot going on behind JFK when JFK was elected, but there was so much going on behind Eisenhower's world. And so people forget that Richard Nixon was the vice president for Dwight Eisenhower and was actually the person who was picking all the scientists for Operation Paperclip in the early 1950s. So there's like this network of intrigue that is very, very deep at that time.
Right. And so that, I think that leads, and people don't realize that Kennedy was really tied to this from the beginning. Like he was in naval intelligence.
Yes, which is the highest form of military intelligence.
Right. So at the end of World War II, he actually, and this is part of the book, Michael Sala's book, he went to Europe, to Germany with Forrestal, of all people. Like he was like the protege. He was like under his wing, basically. Forrestal said, look, this is during Operation Paperclip and all this, he was there to look at basically all the camps, saw that what the Germans were working on, some of this classified information. So who knows how much he was really told, but they were close friends. Ford and Kennedy were very close. So then the next one was, did they tell you everything classified related to UFOs, et cetera? That was kind of what I was at. The message came back, I was never viable. So in my understanding of what that means, I'm just doing what viable means. It kind of means in a way to be successful or feasible. Is it a feasible thing or to achieve in whatever task it is? So I was never viable, or I was never successful or maybe feasible in keeping those secrets. That could be one interpretation. Or I was never successful to finding out the truth of what those secrets were.
And your question was, did they tell you everything? So maybe he wasn't able to get access to everything.
Right. Exactly. I think he knew how far down it went. How much there was to the whole story, talking with Forrestal, and I don't know how much, but I'm sure he got intel from him. Eisenhower, of course, telling him, be careful of what you get into. And head of the army, Eisenhower, he knew, and our grandpa said Eisenhower was the closest to all of this.
I also see viable as being, he's not a viable entity to get that level of clearance because of being in the public spotlight. They probably wanted to keep away from him.
Right.
Really going on, which is a message sort of about how big the military industrial complex was even at that time.
Right. I mean, I think at the end of the day, his assassination was a clear message. So was Forrestal's, though. Forrestal being within even into the deep military industrial, he was deep in it, involved, and he was taken out. So that was telling people who knew on the inside, if you want to ever talk about this publicly, you're done.
Yeah.
And a president, as far as the president's concerned, Eisenhower was definitely warned and definitely saw the direction it was headed and warned Kennedy, but Kennedy was still pushing to get even more information and to have it exposed and to expose the CIA and to dissolve it into 1,000 pieces. So the documentary that came out, 1,000 pieces on CIA. So that was his goal. That was his intention. There's a lot of things he was trying to do. And even during I asked something later, we'll get to that, but the Cold War, the space race, he didn't want a space race to happen against Russia. He actually wanted to join Khrushchev together to try to go to space. He wanted a joint venture. Like, why are we going to, fight over this? So
and remember what we know from your grandfather's book too, is that a lot of what was going on in the space race was public theater, because the Germans, Americans, and the Russians already had been to space by the time Kennedy was president. So that theater would have disrupted, if we would have had the joint venture with the USSR, it would have disrupted their propaganda. Right?
And guess what? It would have meant that everything could now be made public because there's nobody fighting over anything. We're joining.
Exactly.
So the information would have been to the public. They didn't want that. They want, no, we have to be hush hush about all of this. So.
Yeah.